Hello, I'm Hovhannes Ishkhanyan, and today we're continuing our collaboration with 168 Hours and Groong to bring you English language coverage about the ongoing humanitarian and political crisis in Artsakh. Today is January 5, 2023, and our guest is Hovhannes Ishkhanyan. Hovhannes is a writer, documentary filmmaker, publicist, and co-founder of Eye for an Eye, a community of documentarians, and Hovhannes also has a master's degree in journalism from the Georgian Institute of Public Affairs. Hello, Hovhannes, glad to have you here.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Since it's still sort of the week of the New Year's, let me ask you how your New Year's Eve was and how you celebrated.
Well, it was not a celebration. It was to give an honor to our martyrs in Yarabalur. So we walked to Yarabalur and gave our honor to them. And then I just went to my grandmother. She was alone, so we had this little bit of celebration and thoughts for upcoming year, and that's all.
Yeah, that's I know many people I know couldn't bear to sort of have a traditional celebration, and many people like yourself did decide to go to Yarabalur. I have to say that watching the fireworks from there was very surreal given what's going on right now, which actually sort of plays right into the question that I wanted to ask you. I mean, the blockade is 25 days old. 120,000 people are basically essentially trapped like a concentration camp. And in fact, we're counting the days, but many Artsakhis have stopped counting because for them it's almost like an infinity. And in Yerevan, life in general seems to be going on. You know, that's a popular phrase you'll hear. We should live for, you know, if we survive. But you know, the conflict is still ongoing in this case. And you know, I want to ask you: do you think this is normal? I mean, is this what, for instance, was happening during other crises in history that maybe we just have lost perspective?
It depends from whose angle we are analyzing. If we analyze it from the interests of Armenians, of course it's not normal, it's abnormal, it's a paradox. But if we analyze it from the Turkish perspective or the allies of the Turkish perspective, we can find that it's for them it's a strategy, because Armenians are not indifferent. They are mobilized to be indifferent. Because, you know, like, let's imagine there was the April War in 2016, or like the terrorist, Azeri terrorist, Ramil Safarov, who stabbed a sleeping Armenian officer in Hungary. Let's imagine if our government would not like react to that, would not mobilize them, and would not like cut the relations with Hungary, because after they extradited that terrorist to Azerbaijan, who became a hero there, the population would be indifferent. So in this case, if Armenians are not mobilized to the danger to their compatriots that are now in a, as you defined, as a concentration camp, where there are 30,000 children, sick people who need medicine, and that means that this Armenian so-called government, which are traitors of course, are mobilizing people to be indifferent.
That's an interesting topic, because it's sort of almost the reverse of what I wanted to ask you. What I wanted to ask you is what I heard the other day from a popular veteran journalist. He's of course of liberal persuasion, but he was saying, you know, it's not the government's responsibility to tell people how to feel and to mobilize people to feel this way or that way. But then even in the most sort of liberal capitals in Europe, we're seeing things like, you know, I believe in Scarborough they canceled the fireworks because it might interfere with the walrus there, or you know, in Warsaw they canceled the New Year's fireworks because of support of Ukraine. And so, what responsibility does the government have exactly in a case like this in terms of setting the mood? For instance, should the fireworks have been canceled? Should something additional have been done?
The matter is not that there are people who are celebrating New Year. The matter is that there is no mobilization towards the danger that is facing Armenian nation now. It's a genocide. It's an ethnic cleansing. This is the 21st century gas chambers. to make it clear for the Westerners. So technology era is in technology era. Armenians are being blockaded, making them starve, making them to die, to like just to ethnically cleanse them from their homeland. You know. So this is a genocide. Let's make it clear. And the term genocide was coined to explain what Turks did in the beginning of the 20th century with Armenians.
Yes.
Raphael Lemkin, the lawyer, coined that term, bringing the example of Armenians, and that's how it projected to the Jews. So in this case, whatever told that person, it means he is also in the coding system of making Armenians indifferent, because the government's responsibility is to mobilize people when there is a danger.
Yes.
Like, let's imagine if there is a flood, and the government doesn't mobilize people to protect themselves from the flood. Then why they are government? Let's imagine there is a father who has a child, and in their street he knows the dangers, yeah, and he mobilizes him. He asks him like to be careful of this or that, the things that are happening. So the government is the father. This is the family, and the government is the father. Their responsibility is that, and if they don't do that, they have to go. But they don't go because they are traitors. So if we take like the European mobilization of politics now, everyone is mobilized for Ukraine, yeah, now.
Yes.
Who did that? Not the individual, not the, let's say, not Hans or I don't know, not John or usual citizens of Europe.
Yes.
The governments mobilized them.
I mean, besides the government, do you think that there is any function that the people should have? For instance, is it easier to make them docile because of general apathy? Have they lost or given up hope, or is this all a function of essentially sort of the government emphasizing something and not emphasizing something else? What are some additional factors that may be playing into this?
The problem is that after the November 9th, when Artsakh's 75% was occupied by Azerbaijan and Turkey tandem. After that, things happened, like the political parties and figures went to the directions where it didn't really work. Like because the other part who can mobilize those people, because they have the skills and knowledge how to do that, yeah, not the doctors, I mean, not the filmmakers or someone. Politicians' responsibility is when to mobilize people, like they educate themselves for that, yeah.
Right.
And after these several things that happened, it didn't work. So now people are very desperate. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that we have to surrender, because this is not the beginning and not the end of the struggle. And these traitors who are acting like this, they are not forever. So in this case, like we have to think in this way. Like let's imagine that there is a hole in our roof in our house, and we are trying every time to like fix it. Each of us has his or her skills, like for acting, and every time they should like try another way to act. But until the part when we will get rid of this partners of the genocide nations, like the so-called Armenian government.
All right. Well, let me then sort of ask. Let's leave the people alone for now and talk more about the Armenian government. The Armenian authorities basically are prone to blaming anyone they can find for the situation that has been created. At times they blame the voters themselves, at times they blame Russia and the Russian peacekeepers. Of course, that's the most current topic for them. And simultaneous to this, Armenia says that Artsakh is no longer a problem for Armenia, and turns to France, the US, and EU for help, including the possibility of sending international peacekeepers or observer missions because the Armenian government, as we said, blames the Russians for not doing their job. What do you think about this response of the Armenian government?
If to analyze this, we have to go back to 2018 and see what happened. So the so-called revolution, which now is obvious that it was a Turkish revolution, like figures came to act for Turkish interests. So they took the power with the ideology of the genocide recognition is on the first is a
priority. Yes,
is a priority, and the self-recognition of Artsakh is a priority. They were like claiming that the Russian-Armenian alliance is going to be under protection. So the direction is going to be the same as was with the Republicans or like before. Yeah,
they assured, in fact, there will be no external changes.
And of course, from the other side, they were saying that we are going to democracy, protection of human rights, etc. You know. So let's see what happened after. They blocked Parliament. The Prime Minister, this traitor, called to block the Parliament. Yes.
Right.
So he could like bring the elections before that. So this was an attack against democracy. Like we remember when Trump like called to attack the Capitol and what happened in the United States.
Right.
And then when they got the power, they started to get rid of the Kurds. Like they called like to block the Kurds. They were like humiliating the judges. Yes. So this was another attack against democracy. What they did next, they called from CSTO, the Russian NATO, let's say, the Armenian general who had much influence in First War victory of Artsakh, Yuri Khachaturov. So he was the general secretary of that time. So they called him back and fabricated a criminal case, which after was defined as unconstitutional.
Yeah, in fact, they didn't just recall him and then prosecute him. They initiated a criminal case while he was still acting as the Secretary General of the CSTO.
Right, and there are leaked phone calls from the head of national security and head of investigation.
Special investigation committee,
where they are fabricating the case. Like they are talking how they are going to fabricate that case. Right. So they were like fabricating cases against generals like Yuri Khachaturov, Seyran Hovhannes, Mikhail Harutyunyan. And
by the way, just for our listeners, that case essentially went nowhere, and Khachaturov was essentially acquitted, I believe, on the specific charge of.
The case was made like announced as unconstitutional after. Yeah.
But so the net effect was zero. But the effect to Armenia's reputation and the alliance with Russia, you can continue to talk about that.
Sure. So this was an attack to an Armenian defense army, because like you are cutting the heads of the brains of the army, right? And the ones who made you helped you with the victory of the first war, like protection of Armenian rights.
Right.
Clear. Yeah. And then they started like to make this in the army, changing every time the positions of officers, which is making a chaos in the institute. Okay, so then what else they did? They started to like break the relationships with the Armenian allies and with the partners. Like for example, Russia. For Russia, I already told that they humiliated the CSTO, calling back the Armenian general. They fabricated criminal cases against Russian companies in Armenia, such as Gazprom or the railways, the
Russian railways.
Russian railways. Against China, like they entered to organization which is created against China, like the religion organization.
Yeah, Religious Freedom Alliance or something like that. Yeah.
Against Iran. They like opened the embassy, Israel embassy. So all these things that were done, it was going to the way, and besides, also very important to mention, they were like destroying the negotiations that we had for 20 years for the self-determination of Artsakh. This traitor said, I'm starting from my 0 point. He was talking about like Artsakh is Armenia and that's all, but like 20 years we were like in the negotiations table, we were like fighting for the self-determination. So he made from the self-determination a territorial conflict. So if it's a territorial conflict, okay, then I'm coming with my army and I'm taking it, you know? This is very obvious. And so all these steps were done like to get two things. To get rid of Russia, as it's like the global game, yeah. Like the West is trying, like from Ukraine, from Georgia. They tried in Belarus, they tried in Kazakhstan, but it didn't happen. Like to take out Russia, and all the Armenian governmental institutes were like put it anti-Russia elements, yeah, like in national security, in parliament. If you look at biographies, you will find that these elements, all of them were Russia-phobes.
Right.
Yeah. So now, then the war came. I mean, not the war, but the terror against Armenian nation. And during that, this traitor was destroying the army that we created, standing army. Like he was calling, like to in the yards to have groups of 30 people to take a commander and go to the army. They were not letting the generals, the ones who won the war, to come into to operations.
Right.
Right. And then anyhow, these Russian peacekeepers came.
Yes.
That's bad for us because you know we have to protect ourselves.
Right.
Only we are the ones who have all the bucket of protection that we have to give to our nation.
Yeah.
Okay, peacekeepers are not very good, yes, but still, now we are in this situation. There are peacekeepers who are holding Armenian nation from these genocidal terrorist states, such as Turkey and Azerbaijan.
Yes.
Okay, so now when there is a peacekeepers and there is a Russian base in Armenia, the game is continuing. And they have to like take out the Russian forces out of Armenia, and
so they still have to.
Yes, that's why they are saying like Russia, you have to act. Yes. No, we have to act. Armenians have to protect their compatriots, but they are saying Russia, you have to act, right? Why?
Yes.
Because if Russia act, what means Russia act? It means like shoot those terrorists who are they under the name of environmentalists.
Yes.
Killing like pigeons and having these coats with foxes fur, yeah, and that means that you have to shoot. So you go to the war. This is that like it was done in Ukraine as well. Like Zelensky was like breaking the negotiations, like saying that I'm going to bring NATO missiles here. So they were provocating Russia to go to the war, which they could do.
Okay.
And now it's the same happening here.
Okay, so you painted a nice, I think, history of what led to this, and the current situation though is that the Russian peacekeepers are there. Let's say putting aside whether they should be blaming, what the intentions of those blame games are with Russians. If a more patriotic, if a more national government takes effect in Armenia. How do you see things unfolding, where we ourselves are enabled to protect our compatriots in Artsakh, given the military configuration, given the state of our armed forces, and given what we have today, which is like basically a blockade that is on its 25th day?
First of all, this opposition, which called them opposition, I was not calling them opposition because I don't imagine an opposition of traitors. Like it's also an abnormal. Like we Armenians live in a paradoxical reality now, which is created for us to be indifferent, to define things that are not on the ground. You can't be opposition of a traitor. If you call someone a traitor, so it's a traitor. You can't
Then everyone else who's not a traitor is.
But anyway, right? They call themselves opposition. Okay, so in this case, what they have to really analyze what they have done before wrongly and what they are continuing to do wrongly, because they do a lot of wrong things. A lot of and and changes should be made, because with these wrong things that they have done, people already have their reactions
Yes.
to them, their memory, and of course the new government which wants to be in Armenia, they not only should be national government, but it should be like in a way a social government which cares of people's needs, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Because like if we go back to see the Armenia, okay, we were protecting Artsakh, we were developing of our army. Of course, there were mistakes. It's an institute. It has to be developed. But like if we see how we were like how we relate to our soldiers,
Mm-hmm.
to our villagers, to our ordinary citizens, we will understand there was a huge amount of injustice. Like people shouldn't like die because they don't have money to get to go to the hospital.
Right.
You know, because this Artsakh war, it was a protection for all the Armenians' rights, and in that rights it comes that the government, the father, let's say, should like bring the justice. Like everyone should have like feel with their body what was the victory of Artsakh war.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have that, these people will come. They will manipulate. They will, because it's a Turkish strategy. Yeah, they can manipulate and lie to Armenians as much as they want, because their program is to eliminate Armenians.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So this is a thing that all the Armenian, I would like them to understand, that in their acts are things that we see and we understand. They have to bring the harmony. They have to bring the solidarity towards all Armenians, without your taste, without your like to understand as an umbrella that each type of person can be in that umbrella, as in every nation, by the way.
Right. Hovhannes, earlier in 2022, you were in Aravno, and you were trying to raise awareness about the importance of Aravno, and trying to protest against ceding of Aravno in Berdzor area, which is on the Lachin corridor, or the Berdzor corridor, as we say in Armenian. In fact, I visited you, but you were one of the last people to leave the town, I guess, until one day it was given to the Russians, who transferred it, or basically it was transferred to the Azeris, and the Armenian leadership at the time said that they had no choice, and so this was the best outcome. Can you describe your experience in Aravno and Berdzor? Why it was important, and do you see a link between what happened there earlier in the year and what's happening today?
Actually, if we go to the link, we have to go like 500 years. But we can go like 100 years, okay?
Mm-hmm.
When Turkey decided like they're going to eliminate the national, let's not say national minorities, but the people, the other nations who are living in the occupied territory by Turkey,
Mm-hmm.
like Greeks, Yazidis, Assyrians, Armenians, the Lak nations, I call them Lak nations. So, but it didn't end up very perfectly for the Turkey, because Armenia created a state,
Mm-hmm.
and they could like defend themselves, and like could continue to live there, and then came the Soviet Union. But the program was still there, and now it's continuing. So they created this Azerbaijan proxy state. So now they are doing, from both sides, they are trying to eliminate Armenians. Aravno is one pixel in that big picture. And Berdzor, to make our audience clear, Berdzor is a city where also is the corridor to Artsakh, so it's the connection to Artsakh. So, and Aravno is a village also in that road, okay? So what they have done, they gave like 20 days to inhabitants to get out from their lands, This is ethnic cleansing.
Yes.
This is a crime against humanity. And if someone doesn't know what is a humanity, human are we are the species.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a crime against species of ourselves. So of course, after you give Berdzor and Aravno, then is going to continue, because we are facing barbarians, such as Turkey and Azerbaijan. They are the 21st century's Nazis, to make it clear, like the fascists and who are like eliminating humans.
As a state policy.
Yeah. So of course, after Aravno is going to go on and on and on until Armenians will be eliminated. So when I was in Aravno, I was trying to find solutions to bring people there to protect these lands, because we are protecting all the world from these Nazi groups, terrorists. If we try to analyze it more, we have to look after World War II. There was the Human Rights Declaration. There was this international organizations that trying to protect of the human rights. But if you go through the Human Rights Universal Declaration, you will go to the articles from 1st to the 30. You will see how many articles were all the articles are being violated by Turkey. Human Rights Convention of EU violated. The Convention for the Child Protection of Children violated. Protection of the cultural heritage. Azerbaijan is destroying the churches, the cemeteries, the architects, the statues, Armenian statues, and everything. Everything is violated. Azeris tortured our prisoners of war. The Geneva Convention of Prisoners of War were violated. They were torturing our women. There are videos where they cut in pieces and put the finger on woman's mouth. Where are the feminists?
Yeah.
And not only feminists, but human species, The amount of crime that Azeris and Turks made in these 2 years are too much.
Right.
Are too much. And I call the world to come to the civilized side of the world, to Armenians, and also very important to make it clear, Armenia is not protecting only themselves, but also the Yazidis, which is home and land became Armenia, where they feel protected.
Yes.
But the genocide is going on by the Turks.
Yes.
So I want to understand, for Europe, why they were acting against ISIS if there is an ISIS state here now, which they take gas from.
Yes.
So then it's coming a question why we should integrate to this so-called civilized family. Armenians are the civilizations who are protecting the fascists with their body, Yeah. It's called that we lost our dignity. But no, the dignity is being lost by the people who created the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Armenians did not violate it. Armenians are protecting it with their bodies. Now, it's already 2 years or 100 years.
So, if I understand correctly, you're saying that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is basically just something on paper that is not being followed, because on paper, at least, it's a good document, but right?
If it's on paper,
yes.
So we have to make them focus that it's on paper. I understand that Westerners has this strong feelings towards gas.
Yes.
Especially after
having heat is nice, right?
Yeah, heat is nice. I mean, they take it from Azerbaijan, yeah. But we have to show them why we are together now. Armenia is a member of European Council. It's a member of Eastern Partnership, European Union Eastern Partnership. Yeah, right.
Yes.
Armenia has took the responsibilities in all these conventions, and we are doing our responsibilities, right? No. The government is not doing. Armenians are doing, because this government is a violator of democracy. We already talked about it. Is violator of human rights. More amount of the political prisoners that we had in these 2 years, we never had that. People, a journalist died from a hunger strike because he was not accepting the accusation that they gave. A producer died in a court hearing for a fabricated case. a mayor in Goris won an election from a prison. Can you imagine?
Yes.
Like the amount of the political prisoners and fabricated cases was too much. So this was a violation of democracy, of human rights.
And let's not forget Sonam Natsakanyan, who was
Sonam
also
Natsakanyan, the cargo that a pregnant woman that so-called Prime Minister's cargo hit and she died.
You know, and I'm not saying this is the right thing to do, but in Armenian society, like if you go to an OBGYN, basically a doctor who delivers babies, and something happens to that baby before it's born, and mother and baby die, right? Those doctors unfortunately are persecuted. They're not able to continue their career because they are perceived as the cause of that death. Now we have a direct cause of death of a mother and an unborn baby. Let's go back a little bit to the community that you're part of, the artists, the creative community. How do you think that they have reacted over the last few years to the changes happening, especially after the war? Is there any responsibility on them to also sort of react to what's going on? Because we see a lot of artists today who are saying, just like the rest of the society, they're just closing themselves off and saying, I'm not into politics.
Firstly, if we try to analyze the artists, we have to understand why they are like that. Because we lost our artists. It's a thing that makes me very sad, but it's not something to blame to them. If we go back to the responsibility of the government, talented people are gone to other side, right? So we have to understand what we have done wrong, that these talented people became indifferent. Now they are, because through their works is much easier to mobilize people with one picture.
Yes.
For example, Navart Yerkanyan's picture that showed the illustration of this so-called environment, like killing the pigeon, and they came with peace. That's how she titled it.
Yes.
With that one picture, more people mobilized than with all these speeches of the politicians from the stages, and they were blaming everyone, blaming why they are not with us, why they are not with the, So this is a thing to analyze and to understand that these Armenian artists have the Armenian identity, but something wrong has been done, or someone won from the other side, that they took their brains and talents to their sides. Now what we have to do, we have to bring them back. We need them, and I want to call them that we need them, you need us, and this continuation needs us, all of us. Shall I tell about Akn Und Akan?
Let's save that, but actually, okay. Let me just ask you one more question. You had a documentary. I forget what it's called.
Sleep Art?
The Sleep Art, yes. And that was an interesting, I think, sort of a picture of the state of the artists in 2018 versus when you were filming them. Can you tell us a little bit more about that documentary and where they can find it?
Sleep Art is open. It can be found in YouTube. Just write Sleep Art. I don't think other things will appear. It's a documentary about 3 artists which describe themselves as left artists, and they were doing political art. Right. One of them is very prominent painter, so he's not just a political artist as the others, but also very good painter. So for me it was interesting that before 2018 they were doing lots of works, lots of provocative works, lots of that was trying to bring to the surface the problems that the government was not facing, or they were anyway. So but after 2018, as I told, there were many things that art had to react. As I told you, a person died from hunger strike, or this fabricated cases.
And what was their reaction, like when you asked them?
It was slipped. When I asked them, so the reaction people can find in a film, but the reaction was like trying to justify their position, why they don't act. Each of them had its position, but still it didn't stick with the reality. So they had to act. Yes. You know, that this was the justice and this was the reality that it had to be. Yeah. So then I decided to act with I've never done street art, but in the film I do it because just to show that the art is sleeping. You know, that was in 2018 and not in 2020 it was published, but and then war erupted after I edited the film and then the war erupted. So after the war, much other things happened that the art didn't react. But during that situation, my brain, my thoughts were like in that situation, why they do not act. But if I grown this 2 years to understand more widely why it's happening, and I told, we lost our artists. That's our problem. That's our mistake. So we are the ones who have to blame that our artists do not act or do not act enough.
Okay, so now tell us about Akn Und Akan, or Eye for an Eye, which is an organization you founded that seems to be a logical continuation of that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, after the war, when I came back from the war, I was thinking like, okay, in this depression, desperate, what can be done? Because it was obvious for me that this government should go. Because, you know, if you don't go, the disaster is going to continue. And it's continuing. 2 years we are in the disaster. In 2 years we are facing genocide. So that's why they are also a traitor. We couldn't bring prisoners of war back. We are losing our territories. In September we lost 200, more than 200 of our soldiers. You know, this is a thing that you can't. They didn't even resign.
Or step down.
So that's make them traitors. You know. Okay, so so I was like thinking what can be done, and I'm a documentary filmmaker, so I had to go with that direction. A writer, Naren Avasardzian, my cousin Hovhannes Ishkhanyan, who's a singer and a lawyer and photographer, and his wife, who's archaeologist and a photographer and also musician. We came up with this idea to create a Documentarians Community, which aim is to restore the Armenian dignity, to protect Armenians and the Lachin nations' rights as Armenians, Yazidis, so Assyrians, Greeks, so the nations who
inhabit Armenia.
Yeah, and who are like the victims of the Turkish barbarian fascism. Okay, but the other concept of it is like that we use documentarian tools and art like to prevent the disasters rather than to be fed from the disasters, as usually art likes the disasters. They go there and make beautiful stories. So it's now it's 2 years more. Soon will be 3 years in February that we exist. We are doing competitions. We do lots of photographies.
In fact, yeah, I saw an announcement about a competition specifically related to Berzo, or the closing of the Berzo corridor. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, we just yesterday we announced urgent competition for this blockade of Artsakh. So everyone, it can be text, it can be film, it can be song, it can be dance. So for all the creators and for all the artists, so just to mobilize our people to this danger that our compatriots are facing now, and to find solutions how we are going to get out of this situation. We have to get out from this situation in favor of our interests. So this can be only this solution. Otherwise, it's going to come to Yerevan. and we are going to make art in Yerevan,
Yeah.
of Yerevan's blockade, you know. Yeah. So yeah, we announced it, and now in community we are now more than like 20 people or so, and lots of supporters and everyone. So yeah, this is actually now we are focused on Artsakh at this moment and all these 2 years, because our danger is in Artsakh. Our identity's danger, like that, has to be protected and to be cared about, is in Artsakh now, and in Syunik as well, of course.
Of course, right. All right, we're out of time. Hovhannes, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
And thank you to our listeners. Just a quick reminder that this is a collaboration between the Groong podcast and 168 Hours. The links to both of these resources can be found in the description. Thank you for joining us.